large or small, on land or in the sea. All living organisms are a link in the chain of life, cooperating to survive and maintain ecosystems. But thousands of species are threatened by human activity, including some we've taken for granted for long and now need our help to survive. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu. We start in southern India with a tiny mammal called the Madras hedgehog, known locally as a thorny rat. The animal survives primarily on insects and as such is a natural ally of farmers. But in recent decades, its populations have suffered a dramatic decline. We met a conservationist who's working to bring them back from the brink.
It's very cute. Its nose keeps dancing.
Bravan Kumar is talking about this tiny mammal, the Madras hedgehog. And he's right, isn't he? It is pretty cute. It plays an important role in maintaining a healthy ecosystem by keeping insect populations under control. Unfortunately though, with every passing decade, its numbers are rapidly declining.
The species has faced local extinction across 32 places in Tamil Nadu recently. People last saw hedgehogs 5 years ago.
Bravan Kumar is a wildlife researcher who has been gathering information on the Madras hedgehog across 18 districts in Tamil Nadu. His conservation journey began in 2012 during his first encounter with the Madras hedgehog.
I go to look at it and see that it looks like a ball cushion. I thought, is this what it is? Will it approach me? And I sat down next to it. I made my decision. I made this my purpose because I felt an urge to protect this species.
The Madras hedgehog is endemic to southern India and is one of the 17 species of hedgehogs in the entire world. To determine its presence in a region, Bravan and his associate Abhinesh conduct field surveys during the day and spotlight surveys at night.
It doesn't prefer areas made of shrubs or dense trees. Open grasslands like this are its natural habitat. Areas like these have changed over the past 30-40 years. It is subject to people's changing needs for roads and tree plantation events. With constant change, this animal has nowhere to go and has faced local extinction in those places.
The very roads that cut through these grasslands also end up being a threat to hedgehogs. They walk onto the roads and lay there to absorb as much heat as possible. This attempt to bask in heat ends up with numerous hedgehogs being run over by vehicles.
These hedgehogs are highly sensitive. Even if it hears the slightest sound, even at the drop of a pin, what does it do? It quickly restrains itself and curls up into a ball.
What the hedgehog sees as a defense mechanism, humans see as a weakness. And the best way to understand how and why it is hunted is to reach out to people directly. Bravan regularly conducts surveys as a part of his research to help him gather evidence from people.
People use hedgehogs for medicines?
Yes, we ourselves have used it for children, and when my father had issues with his piles, we burnt its spines on coal and he inhaled the smoke.
Now in many villages, people have hunted for and eaten hedgehogs. Do they do this in your town?
Yes, they catch and eat them.
But they usually come together in twos or threes.
As a group?
Yes, the little ones ran away, but we caught the big one.
People say the hedgehog looks beautiful. Let's take one and go. But if they do that, the others and little ones that are dependent on that family are done. Their lives are over.
The list of threats mentioned so far is from humans alone. For a species with an average lifespan of just 3 to 5 years, ensuring its survival under such circumstances is a near impossible task. But Bravan believes the best place to start is with the younger generation.
We have conducted awareness programs in over 100 schools so far. We mark places where hedgehogs are available on Google Maps and choose schools near those locations.
Why do people have superstitions?
Back in the days, people held on to beliefs like, if I eat this animal, my disease will be cured. Even though hunting as a concept no longer exists, their superstitions has not left them.
When it comes to invoking a sense of urgency in wildlife conservation, making an impact at a community level is a much harder task than conducting programs in schools. Pravin collaborates with town panchayats and organizes puppet shows to involve locals in the conservation process. And what other way than a powerful storytelling technique to grasp people's attention?
This is what they call a muleli. Do you know what people do? They hunt for it and are destroying it. Instead of conveying it as a boring scientific subject, if we present it in a fun way with real facts, they are able to understand it easily.
While working with the locals, Bravan emphasizes on how insecticides are detrimental to the survival of hedgehogs as they are predominantly insectivores. And Bravan's efforts are paying off.
Hedgehogs are a farmer's friend. They eat insects that protect our crops, so it's beneficial for farming.
They told us don't catch or kill hedgehogs, just leave them be and let them reproduce.
I saw a hedgehog walking on top of a rock. I carefully placed it in a cavity under the rock. Let the poor thing also survive like we do.
Locals' participation in protecting small mammals such as the Madras hedgehog is nothing short of a necessity. But to make an impact on ground, researchers like Bravan require recognition from stakeholders who are in a position of power.
If I say, sir, I wish to do research on hedgehogs and have a proposal ready, can you give me some funds? They think, hedgehogs, it becomes a block. So only if I try some 15 or 20 times, 1 or 2 grants get accepted.
Bravan's research, combined with input from volunteers, news and social media, has shown the presence of hedgehogs in 400 places across 23 districts in Tamil Nadu. He believes there's more to be done as the Madras hedgehog isn't listed under any schedule in the Wildlife Protection Act of India. In fact, the world's largest environmental network, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, has still listed the Madras hedgehog as a species of least concern. And one of the main reasons is because there isn't enough data.
People are of the opinion that larger animals are more important than smaller ones. Both are important for environment. They are all dependent on each other. So hedgehogs are important as they play an important role in the food chain.
Bravan's goal is to create a conservation action plan for small mammals such as the Madras hedgehog, reach out to local and national government institutions to gather more data, and continue communicating with the public to make Tamil Nadu a safer space for wild animals.
The Indus River dolphin proved to be a master of survival 50 million years ago, when the sea it inhabited dried up. It adapted to the rivers that were its only remaining habitat, only more recently to become one of the world's most threatened mammals. Our reporter took a look at the challenges facing this rare animal in Pakistan.
The Indus is one of the longest rivers on the Asian subcontinent. It's been home to rare Indus River dolphins for centuries. Here in Pakistan, Nazir Mirani loves to watch them dive.
There are about 30 dolphins in this barrage area. When the river water level is low, it becomes easier to spot them in the slow-moving water.
The colonial-era Sakhar Barrage has 7 canals that irrigate millions of acres of food and cash crops in Sindh province. Nazir Mirani grew up here. As a boy, he and his father joined dolphin rescue operations. And in the 1970s, he assisted Italian naturalist Giorgio Pileri in his research on Indus River dolphins.
I was 8 years old at the time when my father helped Dr. Pillari in his research on the dolphins. He praised my father's detailed knowledge about the animals.
In the local language Sindhi, Indus River dolphins are known as bullar. They are also called blind dolphins because they rely on their sense of hearing rather than sight. They navigate the river's sandy waters using echolocation.
If you see photos of them, they actually have just a tiny little pinhole where an eye would normally be. It's just something that has evolved over time, because if you see the Indus, it is very fast flowing and it's full of sediment. So it actually looks like milk tea, like chai. They use echolocation, so they make noises like clicks to navigate, to find out about their environment, to find fish. And echolocation is so sophisticated and so that they don't actually need eyes. So over the course of millions of years, they've lost the use of their eyes because they've developed this alternative system, which is even better.
The dolphins' habitat became fragmented through the construction of barrages, confining them to a fraction of their former range. Their numbers have dwindled to just 2,000, putting them on the IUCN's red list of endangered species. Mir Akhtar Hussain Talbar and his team work for the Sindh Wildlife Department. They rescue dolphins that become stranded in canals while searching for food. After a tricky rescue operation, they return the endangered animals to the main river channel.
We prefer to bring the dolphin up to the surface so it can take a breath, cause it can only go without oxygen for a short while. Sometimes we must move a dolphin after the rescue, and during that time, it could have a heart attack.
The dolphins are also at risk from the impacts of climate change and contamination from urban and industrial waste. The efforts of local and international conservationists have begun to make a difference.
The Indus actually is a rare sort of positive story where, although there are many threats, despite that the numbers are going up. But I think that more needs to be done in terms of controlling the pollution and trying to limit, especially the industrial pollution that ends up in the rivers, because this has harmful impacts on everybody.
Long-term measures are needed to conserve the Indus River's ecosystem and biodiversity, and to ensure that its dolphins don't disappear, since they can be found nowhere else on Earth.
Growing up here in Mumbai, I remember sparrows flitting in and out through the windows of my childhood home. Though they are one of the most common animals in the world, here in India, sparrows have become harder to spot, be it in cities, towns, or the countryside. Conservationists in Delhi have come up with a solution to boost their numbers. And it's not just the birds who can benefit.
We never used to say that, my God, there's a sparrow, because they used to be all over the place. Sometimes the most common birds are the ones that just disappear completely.
Ranjit Lal is an author of children's books who laments the slow disappearance of the friendly house sparrow.
We had sparrows nesting on my balcony, two families, perpetually fighting like a soap opera. Somebody's husband is liking somebody else's wife, and they're fighting away. It was quite amusing to watch. But all that, they've just disappeared.
Sparrows have severely declined, especially in towns and cities across the world, which is a cause for concern. Reports suggest that generally up to 80% of birds have vanished from some urban areas of the country and even gone locally extinct in others. Ecologist Sohail Madan points out a few reasons for this.
Sparrows like living close to human beings. In the time of recent history, we were living in houses which were accessible. It was not air conditioned, airtight living, not so much pollution. So we were not so separated with the outside world, and the sparrow had access inside their houses to make nests.
There are two other big problems. As towns and cities don't have grains lying around like they used to, and packaging has improved, sparrows cannot feed on what might have fallen on the ground. A bigger killer might be pesticides used around the city. These chemicals have killed off insects, the main food source for sparrow chicks.
So if our areas are insect free, sparrow, the adult sparrow, doesn't have high protein rich food to feed to the chicks. When the chicks are growing up, they eat up massive amounts of food, and this food has to be provided mm, by the parents at beck and call.
But sparrows, small as they are an incredibly important part of the ecosystem. They feed on insects and act as a natural pest control. So, as their numbers have declined in some areas, insect numbers have increased and crops can be at risk.
It will have a cascading effect through the ecosystem. We have an example of in China, they declared it a vermin, and then there was rewards for killing sparrows, and then there was massive shortage in 3 4 years. There was massive shortage of grains, so the ecosystem is connected. So they had food shortages because they started killing sparrows.
But a few parks in Delhi are putting in the effort to support these birds. The Gari Mandu City Forest in East Delhi is one. Since 2022, the Delhi Forest Department has been working on around 1.5 acres of forest here, creating a unique home for these little birds. Goraiya Gram, as it is called, translates to a village for house sparrows.
For the sparrows, we have created a few insect hotels. These are structures where we want and we induce the insects to make their home. And this is a ready supply of insects for breeding sparrows, which are breeding in the nests that we have made.
Sparrows need space to fly over short distances, and the safe base here gives them the chance to also fly from Goraiya Gram to the fringes of the city outside. Another is the Aravali Biodiversity Park on the other side of Delhi, where around 40 acres of forest land has been turned into a sparrow conservatory.
This is one of the grass species the diet of the sparrows depend upon. They eat the fallen seeds, and sometimes they feed on the typical grass on the pods also of this grass species. So they provide a very good material for the food material of the house sparrows.
Dr. Hussain is a wildlife ecologist at the park who is in charge of providing sparrows with what they need, including food and shelter.
House sparrows are semi-urban bird, and they require ecotone of habitats, the urban or the wild or the forested habitats. So we have given this space for them as a semi-urban habitat for house sparrows, where you have the feeding, the wild material they require, and the breeding space. Here you have the building or the crevices. So it is ecotone for both the things they require for survival of their lifespan.
Over the last 15 years, Dr. Hussain says the house sparrow population has been growing locally. At the beginning, they were confined in pockets, but today they can be sighted all over the park.
This park also has mosaicness. So if they have contiguity within, so they will be spreading. So they are increasing in a very good way. Means abundant of this. Even I've seen 200 sparrows at one time in pocket.
Natural habitats in urban forests are vital interventions in cities that are rapidly modernizing. It will take a continued effort from initiatives like these before the sparrow truly becomes our friendly neighbor again.
Well, no doubt those sparrows would enjoy a tasty worm. But in many places, it's an underground treat that's not so easy to find. Erosion, salination and contamination are destroying soil fertility, threatening not just earthworm populations but also our food security. Our next report shows how microbes could help reverse the damage.
What we are doing basically is destroying the soil that is a not renewable resource.
Christina Cruz specializes in the interactions between plants, soil, and microbes.
What we have been doing so far during the last 200 years maybe is to use soils as a substrate to grow plants.
We've been undervaluing them and expecting them to stay healthy. But tilling, overusing chemicals, and climate change are harming our soils. This is a problem for growing food, as well as resources for clothing and construction. soil is also key to storing carbon and filtering water. To make soils healthy again, we need to start seeing them as what they are: entire ecosystems teeming with hidden life, all run by microbes. A healthy soil will have a diversity of microbes. The most common ones are bacteria and fungi. One of their most important jobs is transforming nutrients.
Every single nutrient cycle on the planet is mostly driven by microbes.
Jennifer Wood has a background in soil microbial ecology and studies how microbes affect ecosystems.
None of these cycles really exist in a vacuum. They're all interlinked.
One of those nutrient cycles is with carbon. Plants and animals are made mostly of carbon, and when they die, they're broken down by microbes. No microbes, no decomposition. Another nutrient cycle happens with nitrogen, which makes up most of the air around us and is one of the main nutrients plants use to grow. Plants can't get it from the air by themselves, so they partner up with microbes. Microbes, specifically fungi, also exchange other nutrients with plants. They have very fine roots called hyphae that intertwine themselves with the roots of the plant.
The fungus is really good at releasing things like phosphate from the soils, which is hard for plants to get at. So it does that and exchanges that with the plant in return for things like sugars, which the plant can make through photosynthesis.
There's also some evidence this relationship makes the plant more able to withstand drought and disease. In a degraded soil, these nutrient cycles aren't working as well as they could be. Climate change is one cause of degrading soils, with drought and extreme weather causing them to dry out and erode. Intensive agriculture can be another cause, as pesticides and herbicides kill off beneficial microbes and reduce their activity. The more degraded soil is, the more chemicals are needed to grow stuff, degrading the soil even further. Even though different parts of the world have very different soils, one thing all degraded agricultural soils have in common is that they're susceptible to disease. Degraded soils also lose their ability to hold and filter water, are more susceptible to erosion, and have less of those beneficial microbes, meaning plants don't grow as well. But soil health is about more than just our food security.
Soil communities and soil health is actually the foundation of all ecosystems, both natural and man-made. If the foundation of something crumbles, everything else comes tumbling down.
No-till agriculture leaves soil undisturbed, which allows the microbes living inside the clumps to thrive, specifically those fungi hyphae, which are important for soil structure. There can be a kilometer of them in a gram of soil. And cover crops, planted to leave in the ground, provide microbes with carbon to chow down on, as well as reduce erosion and nutrient loss, and encourages those fungal microbes to grow. It can also be made into a liquid fertilizer. This compost tea concentrates microbes into a form that can be sprayed on fields. Unfortunately, this kind of farming just isn't possible everywhere.
If you can do it, that's fantastic. It's what we want. But the problem is the vast amount of areas where the soil is so degraded that these techniques are not enough to recover the soil in due time.
Here's where microbes come in on a larger scale. The most common use is as biofertilizers. They're used like chemical-based fertilizer, except they contain fungi or bacteria. A problem with commercial microbial products is that the microbes are not specifically adapted to the environment. Non-native microbes could find it hard to survive, rendering the process useless. And because these are living organisms, they could cause an imbalance in the microbiome.
This is something we really have to take in consideration, especially with fungi, because they spread faster and they are more efficient in this side.
Since soils are different around the world, we would ideally develop microbial products for specific regions, but that will take time and more research. Unfortunately, our soil health is an emergency.
We are going to need it because we have to recover soils, and this is the cheapest way to recover it, because we are recovering them while we are maintaining productivity.
So for large farms, biofertilizers are a step above chemicals. And where possible, agriculture that relies on helping native microbes, like on this farm, is the way to go.
Human beings are at the top of the food chain. This position comes with responsibility. It falls upon us to maintain the balance in our ecosystem. If we don't stop overusing the resources we've been provided and refuse to step in to protect species who are vulnerable, nature will have to step in. We're already seeing this happen in many parts of the world. Think about what you can do to course correct before it's too late. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye and thanks for watching.